Hello, Math 1. I have one last section for you in Chapter 2. 2.13, it's a little bit intimidating at first, but I think you guys will get the rhythm of this after seeing a few examples. We're solving equations with multiple variables in them and not getting an actual one-number answer. So, the best way for me to explain it is to just work through one of the examples. So as you can see right here, I've got I equals 1/3 times mr squared. Okay. My job in this case is to get m by itself. So I'm just going to put that in a different color to kind of highlight the fact that this m is going to be there at the end. It's going to be m equals some variable expression. I'm not going to be able to get m equals like some constant number. I can't get m equals 3 or 3.5. The m is going to be written in terms of I and r's. So here's what you do. First of all, treat the variables as if they're kind of like numbers, because variables are just unknown numbers. So if I see a fraction times a whole number, or a variable, I can put that whole variable over 1. Same thing with the r squared, and then do the rules of fractions for multiplication. I will multiply 1 times m times r squared, which can be rewritten as 1mr squared, which really means I can just call it mr squared. I don't even need the 1. And then on the bottom, it's 3 times 1 times 1, which is 3. All right, now you ask yourself, how do I solve a whole number equals a fraction? Well, I can put the whole number over 1, and then I can cross multiply. I can say 1 times mr squared is just 1mr squared, or mr squared. And then 3 times I is just 3i. All right, now remember, we're getting m by itself. So usually what's the last move when we solve an equation for x or for y or whatever? You divide by the number multiplied by that variable. So r squared here is being multiplied by m. To get rid of it or move it to the other side, I have to divide by r squared. R squared divided by r squared gets m by itself. So I got to divide the other side by r squared. At this point, we're done. We can't simplify it any further. So m equals 3 times I divided by r squared. And that's your answer. I know. Very weird. That example might still be confusing, but hang with me. Let's work through the next example. So you got 2wx plus 5y equals 3z plus y. We're solving for y. So again, I'm going to highlight the y in blue just to remind myself that we're trying to get this alone on one side of the equation. So if we're trying to get the y by itself on one side of the equation, I need to collect all the y's together. So I'm going to say, how about we subtract y here and subtract y here? Now I've got all my y terms on one side of the equation. So 2wx plus, now here's the interesting part. You can actually take 5y minus y, because they're like terms. So this will give me 4y equals 3z. Now, I know that wx does not combine with 3z. I know that. They're not like terms. However, I need the 2wx to not be on the same side as 4y. I need the 2wx to move to the other side of the equation. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract the 2wx, zeroing it out on the left, but then I'm going to do the same thing on the right, but not combine the 3z minus 2wx. I'm just going to call it 4y equals 3z minus 2wx. And I'm just going to leave that variable expression as is. It's going to be 3z minus 2wx. Can't simplify that any further. So then my last move, well, I divided by the thing multiplied by m here, so I'm going to divide by the thing multiplied by y there. Divide by 4. And when I divide the left by 4, I'm dividing everything on the right by 4. So these are two separate terms. I'm going to divide 3 by 4 and 2wx by 4. And then here's my final answer. Y equals 3 divided by 4 doesn't simplify, so I'm going to leave it as 3z over 4. 2 divided by 4 simplifies to 1/2, so I'm going to simplify that. So it's going to be minus 1wx over 2. All right, number 3. I threw some Greek letters in there. This is pi, and I think this is lowercase omega. I can't remember exactly. It might be something different. You can just write it as a W. So if I see a fraction on the right, I want to create a fraction on the left. So I'm going to say this is t over 1 equals 2 pi over W, or omega. So I'm trying to get the omega or W by itself. I'm just going to call it W from now on. I'm going to get W by itself, which means I need to get it out of this fraction. So it's going to be WT equals 1 times 2 pi. Well, that's just 2 pi. Divide by t, because you're trying to get W by itself. And then W equals, you can't simplify 2 pi divided by t. All I can do at this point is cross out things on the top that divide things on the bottom. Pi is completely different than t, so I'm leaving it alone. All right, why don't you guys pause the video and try 4 on your own? All right, let's see if you got the idea. If you make it a fraction, you can use cross multiplication. So I'm looking to get a by itself. I need to break it out of this fraction. So it's going to be 3a minus c times 3x. So I'm going to put 3x on the outside of the parentheses multiplied by 3a minus c. And on the opposite side of the equation, I'm going to get 5b times 2. Now here's where things get a little bit tricky. Students kind of get, they get acclimated to the idea of, I can't combine not like terms. So they look at this 3x times 3a, and they think to themselves, I can't do that. But you can multiply unlike terms. It's 3 times x times 3 times a. 3 times x times 3 times a. We can use the commutative property to flip these around. 3 times 3 is 9. And then I can use the commutative property again to flip these around. It's easier to put them in alphabetical order. So 9ax is going to be 3x times 3a. So then the same thing works here. 3x times negative c is going to be negative 3c x. 5b times 2 is going to be 10b. All right, we're trying to get a by itself, so we need to get the a term alone. Minus 3cx does not contain an a, so I'm going to move that to the opposite side of the equation. So that completely gets rid of it on the left. I've got 9ax on the right. 10b and 3cx cannot combine. They cannot combine. So I'm just going to rewrite them as 10b plus 3cx and not attempt to combine them because you can't do it. All right. Last move is I'm going to divide by the thing multiplied by a. So what's the thing multiplied by a? Well, there's two things multiplied by a. There's a 9 and there's an x. So I got to divide by 9x. And if I do that on the left, I got to do it on both parts of the right. So my 9's cancel. My x's cancel. A equals 10b over 9x. And then if you look on the right fraction, we actually have several things that are going to be able to reduce. If there's an x on the top of the fraction and an x on the bottom, those x's divide out to give me 1. And 3 divided by 9 is 1/3. So that leaves us with plus 1c. See that? Over 3. All right, we're rolling through this. Let's check out number 5. Again, I'd pause the video and see if you guys can do this on your own. All right, let's see what you got. All right, you got a fraction on the right, make it a fraction on the left. So it's g over 1 equals 2 pi r minus 7h. Can't combine these, so don't try to. If we want to get r by itself, we need to break it out of this fraction. So take 1 times 2 pi r minus 7h. Okay, so you're really taking the 1 times everything on the top, but 1 times anything is just itself. That's going to be equal to WG. I'm going to put GW. All right, you're trying to get R by itself, which means this minus 7H is not connected to the R. Get rid of it. Move it to the other side. It's gone. So you got 2 pi R equals GW plus 7H. This is not GW plus 7H does not equal 7 GWH. Not true, so don't try to make that happen. All right, we're trying to get R by itself. It's being multiplied by 2 pi. Divide by the 2 pi. R is by itself, but you got to multiply everybody by 2 pi. Sorry, I said multiply, I meant divide. Divide everybody by 2 pi. So then our final answer is, can I simplify? I can't simplify GW over 2 pi. Can I simplify 7 over 2? Not really. H over pi? Nope. So there's your final answer. All right, I got 2 more examples, I think. Let's try number 6. Hey, this is a familiar formula. This is your surface area for a cylinder. Not sure if you guys remember that. At any rate, my SA equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. If I'm trying to get h by itself, that means the 2 pi r squared that's not connected to the h needs to move to the other side. And it's not through division. Division's the last step. I need to subtract it from both sides. So SA minus 2 pi r squared is equal to 2 pi rh. Now I can divide. I'm dividing by everybody who's not h. So 2 pi r is not h. So I divide it on the right, and I got to divide it by both parts on the left. So 2 pi r cancels with 2 pi r. H is on the right-hand side. If you look at this fraction here, 2 divided by 2 is 1 over 1. Pi divided by pi is 1 over 1. And then here's an interesting thing. R squared divided by r is going to be one of the r's on top is going to cancel with one of the r's on the bottom. So you're left with 1 r. It's kind of interesting. And then the SA divided by 2 pi r can't be simplified. It is what it is. All right, I got one more example. You guys hear that bell ringing? It's today. You guys are coming here in a few minutes. I got to get this done. All right. It's today. I'm sorry. What does that statement even mean? All right, again, I would pause the video. See if you can get h by itself on its own for this particular problem. All right, so here's what you should have done. You should have done something very similar to the first example we did on these notes. You've got V equals 1/3 pi r squared h, the volume formula for a cylinder. You should have put everybody on the right over 1. So now I can take 1 times pi times r squared times h. So that's 1 pi r squared h. And really 1 times anything is just itself, so I'm just going to take that 1 out. Divided by 3 times 1 times 1 times 1, that's just going to be 3. And if I see a fraction on the right, I'm going to make a fraction on the left. So V is the same as V divided by 1. All right, cross multiply. 1 times pi r squared h is pi r squared h. 3 times v is 3v. If I'm solving for h, I need to divide both sides by pi r squared. Whoops. That cancels the pi, cancels the r squared. H equals, none of this simplifies, 3v over pi r squared. All right, guys, I realize this is a complex section. You guys have not seen multivariable work like this before, but thank you for being patient through this video, and hopefully it was helpful. Thanks for watching.